Welcome to 10-minute sci-fi thrillers by Ramanarao MLV.
What if an anti-thought, like antimatter, were invented?
Sometimes, what you think might be acting right against you. This is not a psychological problem. It is a technical one, a problem created by human intervention in the natural course. The altered course begins. Now, Dr. Mira Vadra's fingers hover over the keyboard, hesitation creeping into her normally steady hands. The email from Owen is brief. Need to talk. Something's wrong with my mind. The urgency it carries jumps out of the message to shackle her usual composure. She is tempted to assume it was burnout, another brilliant scientist on the verge of collapse under the weight of his own work, under the weight of his own aspirations. He was certainly not another scientist. He has identified a concept that has not occurred to any of the living or dead scientists, including the greatest pioneers and Nobel laureates. The anti-thought. Discovery of the antimatter has been a thing of the past, and its uses and applications are now very widely used. But what about anti-thought? The missing counterpart of thought itself. The concept that no mind, living or dead, had dared to conceive until Owen. It's where Owen becomes a pioneer, besides being pathfinder. Shaking off her thoughts, Mira gets up to see what the matter is. She knows that Owen has never been so weak as it sounds in his message. As soon as she stepped into his cluttered office, she knew it was something worse. Worse than the worst. Sometimes superlatives are so insufficient. Owen sits hunched over his desk, staring at a blank notebook as if waiting for words to appear. His eyes flicker up at her, hollow and unfocused, as if they were made of perfect glass, crystal clear in appearance, but so, sort of dead. Mira, he said, as if testing the weight of her name. Her two-syllable name seems to squeeze the whole energy of his body. Something's missing. But I don't know what. She frowned. What's missing? He opened his mouth, then closed it again, brow furrowed in confusion. The tentacles of his consciousness seemed to be fishing in the void of his brain. I don't know. I don't even remember what I don't remember. Mira pulled up a chair beside him, glancing at the mess of papers on his desk. Formulas, half-written hypotheses. And then she saw the real problem. She snatched a sheet, her pulse quickening. Owen, this is your research. They are his life's work, still lying there on the table like used tissue paper. I know, he said, voice flat. Does he really know? His words, something's wrong with my mind, echoed in her head, but now they felt different. He wasn't just losing memories. He was losing the ability to know they ever existed. You have been working on this for the last 10 years. She tapped the equations, recalling late nights spent arguing theories with him over coffee. Your work isn't just about cognitive negation or thought suppression. Owen, you discovered the counterforce to thought itself. You mathematically proved that thoughts don't just vanish, they can be undone. No, his voice is non-directional. His answer is not a response. Not to her question, not even to himself. Just a sound, floating in the air like an echo made by silence from nowhere and at the same time everywhere. She doesn't understand what question his answer is directed at. She cannot help staring. But he seems to have no feeling at all towards her stare. No offense, not even surprise. His voice is flat as the cardiac wave of a corpse. He shook his head. It doesn't mean anything to me. That it is something that has been the life of all his thoughts till now. At least, till a few days ago when all this nonsense started. Mira couldn't contain her disbelief. You're saying you don't remember it? No, I remember writing it, he said slowly. I just don't recognize it. As if it wasn't mine. As if the idea itself. He stopped short of saying amnesia. Human consciousness, even when it is underneath the sheath of the thought void, does not want to attribute certain things to itself. Ever asked a stubborn person if he is so? The certain answer is quite obvious, right? To me, it seems like wetness running out of water. He stopped, visibly struggling. It's like my brain is rejecting it. A chill ran down her spine. Scientists forgot things all the time, but this wasn't forgetfulness. This was erasure. She turned to his computer and pulled up an old video recording of a lecture he had given. His voice filled the room, confident, explaining the concept of anti-thought, a theoretical counterforce to cognition, something that didn't just block ideas but actively countered them. She glanced at him. Does any of this sound familiar? Owen watched himself on the screen, brow furrowing. Then, to her horror, he reached out and stopped the video. This isn't me. Mira felt her stomach drop. Owen, that's you. Your voice, your work. She now certainly feels the wetness being wrung out of water. I know, he said, a tremor in his voice. But I don't remember thinking any of it. He clenched his fists. I feel like the thought was there, and something fought against it. Mira tried to suppress the growing terror in her chest. What do you mean? Owen took a shaky breath, as if a dragon is breathing in the fire it has already spit out. He speaks aloud, as if he were talking to himself. Have you ever tried to recall a dream, only for it to slip away the moment you focus on it? It's like that, but deliberate, as if there's a force that doesn't just erase knowledge, but contradicts it. Not a block, not repression, an active negation. Mira's mind raced. A virus? A cognitive disorder? Some experimental neural interference? When we wish that our worst fears wouldn't come true, it is exactly what happens. Still, hope is the delicate thread to which we hang our self-centered desire for some panacea or utopia. Suddenly the idea dawns onto her, like a momentary cool breeze in a scorching desert. I need to test something, she said, pulling out her phone. I'm going to show you something I know for a fact you should remember. She opened a photo from 5 years ago, a picture of them at a conference, Owen gesturing excitedly at a whiteboard filled with equations. Tell me what you see. He looked at the photo, eyes narrowing. That's you, he said slowly. That's me. Some question marks are so problematic that we wish to erase the question mark itself from our expression, if not from the whole language. He says yes. But what am I doing? She gripped the phone tighter. You were presenting your research on anti-thought. He paled. I don't know what that is. Mira felt her breath catch. She grabbed a pen and wrote the word anti-thought on a sticky note, holding it up. What does this mean to you? He blinked. His gaze flicked over the letters, but there was no recognition, no understanding. And then, right in front of her, his expression shifted into something eerily neutral. A tabula rasa of an infant born just seconds ago. What are you doing? He asked, his voice suddenly calm. Mira's fingers tightened on the paper. Owen. He looked at her, his face a blank slate. Why are you holding up a blank note? Mira's heart slammed in her chest. She glanced down. The word she had written, anti-thought, was gone. The ink was still there, but it was meaningless. Just a tangle of lines, as if her mind had lost the ability to recognize the concept. We recognize things only when we believe they exist, right? She dropped the paper. This isn't possible. For the first time, she starts doubting, is it Owen or me who have the problem? Owen didn't seem concerned. He just rubbed his temple absently, as if a headache were forming. You should go, he murmured. I think I need to rest. The lady he has always admired and yearned for has now become a stranger, if not an enemy. Mira stands frozen. Owen was slipping away, and she had no idea how to stop it. She turned to the desk, grabbed his research papers, and shoved them into her bag. Perhaps she can do something with it. The revolutionary idea that has arisen from a dearest person, she thinks, should not go waste. A fact she has never expressed, though. Whatever was happening, she needed to analyze this. If something was erasing knowledge, she had to find out how and why. She hurried out of his office, her heart pounding. As she reached the hallway, she pulled out her phone and scrolled back to the photo of them at the conference. It was gone. No, not gone. The picture was still there, but the whiteboard behind Owen was now empty. The equations, the notes, the very proof of his work, vanished as if they had never existed. Her breath came in quick gasps. She needed to get to her lab. She needed to document this before. She really doesn't want to complete the sentence. Even mentally, her phone screen flickered. For a fraction of a second, she saw something impossible, a message appearing in her own handwriting. If you think about it too much, it thinks back. And then it was gone. Mira stumbled back against the wall, her entire body trembling. The silence between her thoughts suddenly felt suffocating, like something was pressing in, waiting for her next idea to take form, or her next idea to have developed its counterpart, the anti-thought, and she realized, with bone-deep terror, that it was already listening. Some things are better said when unsaid. Some other things are better unsaid than said. Don't you think so? Thanks for watching.